All right, y'all. This is Oldmanyates, and this is Oldmanyates' shadow on a beautiful Quercus alba or white oak. But the reason I stopped here to start the video, I wanted to show you a giant poison ivy vine. Oh, look, mates. Oh, about bit me finger off. You would not want to be getting anywhere close to this poison ivy vine. Notice as I follow it up the trunk of Quercus alba, see how it takes a real kind of snake-like turn there? When it gets about, I don't know, 10, 12 feet off of the ground, it starts to put out little pencil-size branches that stretch out into the sunlight. It's looking to make its ascendancy all the way up into the top of the forest canopy. It's rising up the trunk of Quercus alba. All of the oaks are Quercus. This alba means white, and the bark of Quercus alba has a kind of a white color. Here we're lucky to have just a few tiny little leaves of the white oak starting to come out. When they first start to come out, they're beautiful and kind of tinged with a red color. It's got a little rotted column here that you can see where the woodpeckers have been pecking into that. I hear them up here working all the time in the rotted wood. There's quite a lot more. Those dinosaurs are relentless in pecking away at the rotted wood to get at the insects beneath. But our focus, and y'all, birds are the closest relatives of dinosaurs. They're kind of the living examples of dinosaurs that are still here. This giant poison ivy vine, this is Rhus radicans in the Anacardiaceae family. It's the same family that has cashew nut in it. Look at the hairy aerial roots that are helping it to cling along the side of this tree and make its ascendancy up into the forest canopy. I like to say there are like 13 faces of poison ivy, and I'll attempt to show you a few of them. You might encounter this little plant that is on a little, let me get like a pointer that I can use. I definitely don't want to touch this stuff. And then, yeah, so this is the poison ivy, and if we follow it up here, these are the 3 leaflet leaves. Now, why is that not just 3 leaves coming off of a stem? Because that whole structure is going to fall off in the wintertime. That makes it a 3 leaflet leaf and not just 3 leaves on a stem. This little baby hickory also has a compound leaf, so that whole structure will fall off in the wintertime. Another face of poison ivy, you may see it get about this tall. So this strand that is coming up in front of the camera here, panning up to where the 3 leaflet leaves top out. This is about maybe 3.5 feet tall. If it gets maybe a foot taller, it kind of starts getting top heavy, and it will just flop over onto the ground and look for a place to climb up on a tree like the one that I showed you. You may see even a smaller little example of old Rhus radicans coming up in your yard. Sometimes, now here's a really tiny one. Let's look at this little plant. So the one just in front of my hand there, notice it's got 3 leaflets. They're kind of droopy. It's still early in the year. When they first come out, they've got a pretty little kind of purplish red, pink, little tinge of pink. They're pretty little leaves, but they have an oily resin in all parts of them. The roots, the stems, and the leaves, urushiol, that can give you dermatitis, so you really want to try to stay away from it. You might think, well, I'm not allergic to poison ivy. I've been around it and I never got it. Well, you probably had a protective layer of dead skin that might have afforded you some protection, but believe me, if you were to get maybe a twig scratch you and remove that, you might get a streak of poison ivy, and you might be, oh yeah, that happened to me once. That often happens when you abrade your skin, or you get it around your eyes, or sensitive areas, it's a bad condition to have in the last couple of weeks. Now this is often confused with poison ivy. A lot of people look at that and they think this is poison oak, or no, that's poison ivy. It is a woody climbing vine. This is kind of just falling off the side of the tree. It's Parthenocissus quinquefolia. It has 5 leaflets. Quin, 5, folia, leaf. So this has 5 little leaflets in the grapevine family. It has curly forked tendrils that are going to help it to cling along the tree. Everything in the grape family has curly forked tendrils, and there are a lot of wild grapes. We may see some of those as we look around the forest floor here. I just want to zoom in just to show you other faces. This is a little stem of poison ivy that's about a foot tall. Notice that leaf pattern, you all. The 3 leaflets, the 2 side leaflets are in tight on the leaf petiole. This is the structure that connects the leaf to the stem, and the center leaflet's kind of sticking out at you, like poison ivy is sticking its tongue out at you, projecting that little leaflet in your direction. I'll see if I can look at a few more examples down here, and you often see it running in a straight line. So here's one, and I go straight down from it. There's another one, straight down from that, another one. And if you've got a rake into that, you'd find an underground stem that is going to be lying under the ground, and then they're just popping up from a single underground stem. That's what very often happens. Let's look at what a really little one that does have a fairly well extended leaf. Notice once again, leaves of 3, let it be, that center leaflet projecting out at you like it's sticking its tongue out at you. What are a few other things that you might find just growing in your yard in the springtime? You might find some Pennsylvania bittercress. This is Cardamine pennsylvanicum, and it has this kind of nasty habit of the little seeds. I can hear them when I move that. It's popping the little seeds out. You got to watch out that it doesn't pop you in the eye. But the little lower leaves, and this is kind of growing in the woods, a little bit of an anemic specimen, but the little lower leaves, especially before it went to seed, would have been harvested and eaten in salads. Something else that you might just find some of this Japanese honeysuckle, or Lonicera japonica. This is a non-native plant that is very invasive, and it can just get up and grow all around where you don't want it to be. Other plants that you may find growing in your yard, if you've got a shady area, you might find, I see one of our most common ferns here in Kentucky. If you've got a little shady spot, you might find ebony spleenwort with its little dark ebony colored center stem there. It's a tiny little fern, and it, along with this fern called the Christmas fern that we will see on some of our walks, is probably the most common in Kentucky. I just got to show this face of poison ivy. Some people actually think I know poison ivy because it's the one that has that really pretty leaf color. That's just a very temporary condition. Here's another little specimen of it. So I really wanted this walk to focus on the many faces of poison ivy, but I'd also like to show you just a few more things that you may find out in your woods, and this is absolutely a crazy thing here. This is a gall that's caused on a cedar tree by a soil bacteria called Agrobacterium tumefaciens, and I like to call these kind of translucent tangerine tentacles. They will be all drooped out like this after a rain. I could come back here a couple of days from now after it hasn't rained, and those little tentacles would be drawn back up into it. This is taking over the genetic machinery of Juniperus virginiana, or eastern red cedar, and making the plant grow the next generation of that soil bacteria. Growing right beneath it is a little baby black cherry tree. This is Prunus serotina, with a little serrated margin to its leaf. We were talking about poison ivy. This is a plant that you're not going to kill, half a dozen cattle with poison ivy vine, but with the poisons in this, this is the cherry that would make the wood that you might have a cherry bedroom suit or a cherry table, used to flavor black cherry soda. But the leaves have a cyanogenic glycoside that breaks down into a cyanide substance in the gut of mammals like a cow. And I've had, in my college classes when I've taught, I've had people validate many times Dr. Mayer's bit of teaching that can kill cattle. Oh, now here's talking about the grapes. This is one of our wild grapes, and it has in the Vitaceae family. This is Vitus. All your grapes are Vitus, and there's so many species in Kentucky, but they all have curly forked tendrils. They're going to be trying to climb up into a tree. So this one's just snaking around looking for a good place to get a hold. It's got its little grape-like leaves just starting to come off there. Ooh, I'm smelling sassafras, so I know I'm in a little sassafras grove. These are the leaves of Sassafras albidum. Sassafras, whenever the tree starts to mature, it has 3 different shaped leaves right on the same tree. One like a mitten, one with 3 lobes, and then one that's entire, like all these little babies' leaves are. Notice the bark is kind of got a greenish color. It's greenish yellow, and it is photosynthetic. It will be able to photosynthesize even when there are no leaves on the tree. This is in the Lauraceae family, the same family as bay leaf. You might have used bay leaf as a spice. That's the spice that you would, that's kind of got that shape of a leaf, and you would put those leaves when you're maybe seasoning some soup, and then take them out. Sassafras, you don't want to eat the bay leaves, but this is it's the same family as the sassafras, which has been used by Native Americans they would use the roots to make a dye. You could dye cloth. I've dyed old t-shirts with it before. I've dyed Easter eggs with my boys with a dye. But the thing that my grandmother taught me when I was a little boy about this is that you can make tea from the roots. And so you take a couple of feet of sassafras root and wash it really good, and make sure it's got the diameter of like a first grader pencil at least, and you can make a gallon of sassafras tea. The lowermost branches on this are always dead. It's not because it's unhealthy, and these make unbelievable kindling. The oily resin that's making that amazing smell is flammable, and so and it's always got these little branches up off of the ground, and so it makes really amazing kindling, even if it's been raining, because these are held up off the ground. You can start a fire. Ooh, now this is another woody climbing plant. This is something called greenbrier or smilax, sometimes called sawbriars. This plant has little tendrils that help it to cling around branches and climb as well. Native Americans would cut those off where they came up out of the ground, and then the new sprouts would be tender and they could eat those like broccoli. The sassafras, the roots, it's really kind of the bark around the root that has the great flavor. It was used to flavor root beer before they made the flavorings more synthetic. My granddad said that his mom wanted him to bring this kind of wood to the cook stove, and the reason for that is she wanted something that would burn up into coals really quickly. She didn't want to wait for hickory or oak or something, a denser wood. She wanted something that she could crunch up into coals and spread out, and it wouldn't burn the bread. She didn't want flames. She wanted nice, even coals. Now here's a little wild grapevine climbing straight up into this the top of this little baby sassafras. And notice the forked curly tendrils, key characteristic of everything in that family, like the Virginia creeper that I showed you earlier. One more look at our translucent tangerine tentacles. Some of the big cedar trees at my parents' house will sometimes have 100 of these, and the tentacles will be hanging a little more. If I came out, this isn't kind of in the process of drawing them up because it hasn't rained for a few days. I can see up here where it's kind of infected a limb, but it's not really making its tentacles yet. It's kind of remarkable how they take over the genetic machinery. Now here's a place where the grapevine has climbed up into a little hickory tree. This is a Acaria species, but you can see how it's spreading out, and little thick buds are about to unfurl leaves, and it will probably bloom and maybe have a few little grapes on it. The wild grapes can be eaten. They're about the size of a pea. This is growing up on a little hickory. Oh, this is so soft and beautiful. It's a compound leaf, the brother of the walnut. It also has an edible seed, a kind of a buttery flavored seed. But the thing that's so amazing about the hickory is its wood. It's super hard. If you've got a good wooden axe handle or hammer handle or shovel handle, if it's good, then it's made of the wood of the hickory, and that's often stamped on it. But this one is harboring a little grape, but it looks like they're both going to be healthy there. Those pretty little structures hanging down that might get on your windshield wipers, that's going to be the little male flower catkins of the oak tree. That's a beautiful northern red oak there, and it's got its little male flower catkins are hanging and delivering pollen. Ooh, this is, it's a little past its prime, but we got to give it a look anyway. This is Cercis canadensis, or eastern redbud. Beautiful little. It's not a red flower. It's more of a lavender colored flower, more purplish color. You can even see some of the little flattened brown bean structures hanging from the branches. Those are last year's seed pods, and where the little flowers are now, in a few weeks there will be little tiny beans developing. They look kind of rosy colored at first, and then when they mature they'll turn brown. This is a beautiful little tree in the Leguminosae family. I love the little patterns on its bark. You can see some tiny little lichens are starting to get a little foothold on the tree there. Lichens are going to be a combination of a fungus and a cyanobacteria, and you very often find those growing on the sides of trees or even on rocks. They can grow right on bare rock. Hey, now here's a place where a sassafras had a vine growing up it and twisting around it, and it kind of altered the shape of it there for a few years. Wild grapevines climbing up this, and those are starting to put their little recognizable grape leaves out, and they've got once again the little curly forked tendrils. They're a very disease and pest resistant variety of grape that we have growing here in our eastern deciduous forests. When the Europeans first found these in the late 1700s, their excited to take them back and graft their old varietal grapes onto them and send the rootstocks of these Native American grapes down into the ground where pests were decimating the vineyards of Europe. And the California grapes are also grown on these kinds of Eastern North American rootstocks. Let's see, what else might we find if we... Oh, well, you know, around in these woods, you're always going to have a lot of beautiful bryophytes, a lot of mosses that are going to be found a lot more abundantly when it stays wet, because they need a moist layer for their male reproductive cell to swim through. That's why you find them growing a little more abundantly on the north side of trees. And here's another little colony. There are several different species of moss that grow up here in the woods, and see the little lavender flowers that are all on the ground are the flowers of the redbud that have already done their job, and little beans are being developed there now to propagate the species, and the little flower petals just drop away. Here's another little example of, well, now here's a very strange oak. This doesn't look maybe much like an oak leaf to you. But this is Quercus. This is Quercus imbricaria, or shingle oak. The shingle oak is what they would... It's just got a single long tapering leaf to a point, and they would use them to make the shingle shakes for their roofs back in the day. Oh, now here's a persimmon. Oh, this is a beautiful tree. It's got kind of a checkerboard pattern to the bark, and it's starting to bloom now. This tree has a very interesting heartwood that's super dense. This is in the tropical hardwood family. That ebony, like you would make the black keys of a piano, is made from. Our only member of the Eboniaceae family that we have growing here in Kentucky is this. And the heartwood, Dr. Mayer said it really doesn't start to form in any abundance till the tree is 100 years old. And they would cut down trees that had as small a diameter as maybe 10 inches for a little center of heartwood, and they would make golf club heads out of them back in the days before graphite. They have a wonderful edible fruit on them, but you don't want to eat it before the first frost, or at least very late in the season. It might take all your spit away, and you'll be talking like this for about a minute because it's very astringent. It's just got an incredible ability to take your saliva away. Ooh, now I'll just show you a few little baby trees. This is a little baby maple tree here, and this is a little baby sugar maple.